right, so check this out. We're talking Tesla robotaxis, and get this, they're on the streets, like, right now. Not in the future, but today.
Yeah.
Picking up actual passengers.
Yeah, it's really wild. For years, everybody's been talking about autonomous vehicles, but it's all been what if and testing. This changes everything.
I mean, a real Uber ride.
Exactly.
Using Tesla's full self-driving beta.
And it's not a demo or anything. It's like a real person went out and used the app, and a Tesla showed up to pick them up.
It's like we're finally seeing that future that's been promised for so long.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to see this stuff in a closed track or a controlled environment. This is different. We're seeing this play out in the real world.
Right. And it's not just driving around an empty parking lot. This Tesla is navigating real city streets. It's responding to traffic, to pedestrians, to all the chaos of an actual city. And it's all happening while running full self-driving beta.
Yeah, and that's version 13, which is a big step forward. Previous versions really struggled with complex intersections, especially those multi-lane turns. In this video, though, the car handles them, like, seamlessly. So it seems like the tech has come a long way in its ability to just respond to real-time traffic.
Okay, so I get that the car is using this FSD beta, but that means there's still a licensed driver behind the wheel, right?
Yeah.
Just to be safe. So how is this different from, like, a regular Uber with a super focused driver?
Right. That's a really good question. And it gets to, like, the core of why this is such a big deal. That driver, they're there just because of regulations, not because the car needs them to actually drive. You can even see it in the video. They never have to touch the wheel, even when things get tough. And that's a level of reliability we just haven't seen before.
So it's like this Tesla's driving itself, but with a human chaperone for the time being, just in case.
Exactly, a stepping stone. And it's smart, too, because it lets companies roll out the technology gradually, collect tons of real-world data, and fine-tune the algorithms. And just as importantly, it starts to build public trust. Think about it. Someone might watch this video and, for the first time, actually believe that a driverless future is possible.
It makes sense, but I'm sure there are still folks out there who are skeptical.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Is the tech really ready?
Yeah.
What about safety? All those valid questions.
No technology is perfect, but the fact that this Tesla navigated a whole real-world city without the driver having to do anything, I think that says a lot about how far we've come.
Okay, so we're seeing the potential here. But what does this one Uber ride actually tell us about the future of transportation? Like, what are the bigger implications?
That's where things get really interesting. Think about it. What if robotaxis were everywhere? It could mean safer roads, less traffic, and even better access to transportation for people who can't drive. Plus, you could see environmental benefits from, like, optimized fuel efficiency and stuff. It's huge.
So, like, a utopia of transportation.
Yeah, but we've got to be realistic.
Right.
There are challenges, too. Like, how do we actually get the laws in place to make this work everywhere?
Right.
And then there's public perception. That's going to take time to shift.
Yeah, and we can't forget about the economic side of it.
Yeah.
A driverless future is going to have a big impact on people working in transportation. We have to think about those consequences and figure out ways to help. I think it's clear that this one Uber ride is a huge milestone.
Yeah.
But it also kind of opens up a whole bunch of new questions,
Yeah.
Like, let's take our roads, for example. Are they ready for a bunch of driverless vehicles?
Yeah, that's an important one because right now they're built for human drivers. To really make autonomous vehicles work, we might need to rethink some things, like dedicated lanes or smarter traffic systems, even like updating road signs and stuff.
Right, and then there's cybersecurity, right?
Yeah.
These are basically computers on wheels. And we all know computers can be hacked, so how do we make sure these things are secure?
Yeah, it's something we'll have to keep working on. Every time the technology gets better, the security has to get better too. It's an ongoing challenge.
So we've got these massive potential benefits, but also these huge hurdles we have to overcome. It feels like we're kind of at a turning point.
Yeah.
Where do we even go from here? What's the next step in this whole driverless revolution?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? And there's not just one answer. We need tech companies to keep pushing the boundaries, but we also need policymakers, regulators, and the public all working together. It's going to take open discussions, careful planning, and everyone committing to responsible innovation. And a big part of that is going to be dealing with people's fears, right?
Right.
I mean, a lot of folks are just straight up scared of the idea of getting into a car that drives itself.
Yeah, you can't really blame it. It's a big change.
It is, and people are naturally afraid of what they don't understand, so how do we fix that?
Well, how do we?
Transparency is a good place to start.
Yeah.
We need to show people how this technology actually works.
Yeah.
explain the safety features,
Hmm.
and answer their questions honestly. I think the more people understand about autonomous driving, the less scary it'll seem.
And that's where videos like that one from Holmar's catalog can really help.
Absolutely.
It's like it normalizes the whole thing,
Yeah.
shows a driverless car just blending into everyday life.
Exactly. And the more we see real-world examples like this, the more I think public perception is going to shift. It's kind of like how people used to be skeptical about smartphones, remember? Or even the internet. Now we can't live without them. I think the same thing is going to happen with driverless cars.
Yeah, it just takes time.
Yeah.
It's not just Tesla working on this, though, right? There's a whole competitive landscape out there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You've got companies like Waymo and Cruise. They're making huge progress, too. And they're each taking a slightly different approach to the problem. So Tesla, we've talked about their strategy, using their network of cars with FSD beta to gather data and improve the system.
And that seems to be working pretty well for them.
Yeah.
What about the others, though? Like Waymo, what are they up to?
Well, they've been focusing on building like super detailed maps of specific areas. Like think hyper accurate 3D maps that their cars can use to navigate. They're basically deploying their cars in these mapped areas and slowly expanding the coverage as the tech improves.
Okay, so it's more like a controlled, gradual approach
Yeah.
compared to Tesla just letting the cars learn out in the wild.
Right.
Interesting. So what about Cruise? What's their strategy?
Well, they've been really focused on urban environments, like those super busy city centers where you've got pedestrians and crazy traffic patterns everywhere. They've been testing their cars in places like San Francisco, slowly increasing the difficulty of the routes and all that.
So you've got Tesla gathering data all over the place.
Yep. Okay.
You've got Waymo building those crazy detailed maps.
Yeah,
And Cruise is tackling the toughest city driving.
that's right.
Like a three-pronged attack on this driverless future.
And I think that's a good thing. The more different approaches we have, the faster the tech is going to develop. And in the end, it benefits everyone, right? More competition means lower costs and more choices for consumers.
Okay, so we've got all these companies making progress, but what about the governments and
Yeah.
all the regulations? Like what needs to happen on that side of things?
Oh, that's crucial. Policymakers have to step up and create the rules of the road for this tech. We need clear safety standards. We need to figure out who's liable if something goes wrong. And then there's all the questions around data privacy and cybersecurity. It's a lot.
It's not just like adding a few new laws. We're talking about changing how we think about transportation.
Exactly. And that's tough for governments.
Yeah.
The tech is evolving so fast that regulations can barely keep up. We need a system that's flexible enough to adapt, but still keeps people safe.
Yeah, finding that balance is going to be tough.
Yeah.
We don't want to slow things down with too many rules, but we also need to make sure this transition happens responsibly.
And that's why it's so important for everyone to be talking. I mean, industry leaders, policymakers, the public, we all need to be part of this conversation because this isn't just about technology. It's about building a future that works for everyone.
Okay, so we've talked about the technology, we've talked about the challenges, we've even talked about what the future might look like.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing a lot of people listening are probably thinking, okay, when can I actually get in one of these things?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
I don't think anyone can give you an exact date, but if you look at the progress we're making, I think it's safe to say that widespread robotaxis are inevitable. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
So we're really on the edge of this driverless revolution, and it's happening sooner than we think. But before we fully jump into that future, there's still some big questions we need to figure out. Like we keep talking about all these potential benefits, right? Increased safety, less traffic. But is that all just hype? Or are we actually seeing that stuff happening?
Well, that's where all this data they're collecting comes in. Companies like Tesla, with their FSD beta program, they're gathering a ton of info. And what they're seeing so far is actually pretty promising.
Like what?
Like the accident rates for cars using FSD, they're actually lower than for human drivers.
Wow, so the data's backing it up.
Yeah.
But can robotaxis really, like, change our cities, change our lives in all the ways we've been talking about?
I think so, and here's why. Think about how we design cities now. Parking lots everywhere, garages, huge streets for all the cars. It takes up so much space. Now, what if all those cars could just drop you off and then park themselves somewhere efficiently? Or even better, just keep driving and pick up someone else.
Whoa, so we could have all that space back
Exactly.
and use it for, like, parks or housing or whatever.
Yeah.
That's kind of mind-blowing. But we're talking about a huge change, right, like in how we plan cities.
It is. It's not going to happen overnight. But the possibility is there, you know. This tech could completely change how our cities look and feel.
Okay, so we've talked about the good stuff, the challenges, and even what the future could look like.
Hmm.
But let me ask you straight up, are you ready to get in a robotaxi?
I think for me, seeing that video, that Uber ride, it really made a difference. The way the car just handled everything so smoothly in a real city, it made me feel a lot better about it.
Yeah, seeing it in action really makes you a believer. Like, it's not science fiction anymore. It's real. And it's only going to get better from here.
Right, and that's the point. Transportation is changing right in front of us. It's a revolution, and it's going to have a huge impact on the world.
Whether you're excited or scared or somewhere in between, one thing is for sure, driverless cars are coming. And we'll be here to keep you updated on everything that's happening.
The future is full of possibilities, and we're just getting started.
And that's it for today's deep dive into the world of Tesla robotaxis and the driverless future. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to get notified when we release new videos, and let us know what you think in the comments. Are you ready to hop in a robotaxi?